Hey, good morning, everyone. Thank you for being on this week's podcast. My name is John Gormley. I am marketing coordinator for Coeus Consulting here in Phoenix, Arizona. And as you can see from today, we're going to be discussing getting more out of AI. Now, for those of us in the Phoenix area, we did host a lunch and learn this week with our partner OpenText at the Ruth Chris in Scottsdale, which, by the way, was fabulous, and the food was incredible. And we had a full house, and it was an absolutely wonderful interaction with our customers and our prospects as well. And similar to what we've done in other lunch and learns, where we've actually done a podcast right afterwards, relative using the same content as well. But one of the things this morning that I'll be diving into is, there's a lot of noise, as many people know, about AI that's out there in the industry. And there's some small businesses that are, dabbling in it. Some are, playing with ChatGPT, or they're playing with Gemini, or they're starting to play with DeepSeek. And they all kind of come back with, I think this is going to help my business, but, I'm still kind of a wait and see. What they don't realize is that in most cases, their employees are already starting to use AI tools. And in some cases, these, using the tools are fantastic. There's a lot of great positive reasons of using some of these open source tools, but there's also kind of a word of caution as well. So what we're going to cover this morning is kind of both sides of understanding the AI world a little bit. And then we're going to dive a little bit into Microsoft Copilot, because that seems to be really where a lot of organizations, particularly regulated industries, are going towards in order to not only deliver an exceptional AI experience for the user community, but doing it in a much more secure manner. So let me go ahead and bring up the slides, and we'll kind of dive in a little bit, and we'll touch in. So I mentioned that this is discussing more about getting AI. And many of you know we're Coeus Consulting, based here in Phoenix, Arizona. We support, obviously, the southwest region of California, Nevada, and Arizona. We support cybersecurity, compliance, managed IT, and cloud services. Right. So this was the agenda we did during the lunch run this week as well. We'll kind of skip through that. So the first question we posed to the audience during our lunch and learn was, are you already using AI in your business today? And vast majority of the people at lunch and learn raised their hand and said yes. And then we started diving into how they were using it. And what's interesting is that many of them were really much more down the road of, we're using it to really give us some brainstorming ideas, or some are using it to do some, financial analysis. Many of them are doing them to create images. And some of them are also doing it as a very interesting way of doing some prospecting for potentially new clients as well. The one question we followed up with, as you can tell within the image, was, was AI more important? How did it become more important compared to a year ago? And vast majority of them raised their hand and said, it's far more important now. Why? Because AI really is a disruptor. When you really think about the world of disruption in technology, and you look at what Netflix did to Blockbuster, what Amazon did to Sears, what Apple did to BlackBerry, these are disruptions that happen in the industry that get rid of some legacy and obviously promote newer technologies. AI is doing the exact same thing. You have various different flavors of AI, as you can tell. You've got, Claude, you've got ChatGPT, you've got Gemini and DeepSeek, right? All these different flavors that are out there, all of them are causing disruption kind of in their own way, right? Now, undeniably, AI is extremely important to the SMB, along with mid-market and enterprise and large as well, but particularly with SMB, because they're constantly struggling of lowering their costs of expenditures for their business, but trying to drive more efficiencies with their employee base, and trying to optimize the operations of their business and their service delivery, right? So the audience that we had primarily this week at the lunch and learn really was an SMB, mid-market type of audience. And pretty much all of them agree that, we've got to solve the AI question, right? Not only for as an organization, but making sure that we understand, what value can we really get from it. So the first part of the lunch and learn, we really dove into really explaining, what ChatGPT 5 was, Gemini, what DeepSeek was. And really what's interesting is that when we explained what ChatGPT 5 was, and the idea of it being, an ability to brainstorm, ability to have kind of a conversationalist type of experience, how the LLMs worked, how it went into kind of the browser experience. Then we got into what Gemini does, is how Gemini uses Google assets, and DeepSeek obviously was stuff that came out of China. But the fun fact was that we emphasized was that research has found that people using ChatGPT only really are using the effort within ChatGPT 30% of the time relating to professional type of questions. 70% of the time they're just out there doing whatever. And that's the cause of concern. It's like you now have opened up this tool to say, hey, this is really going to do some things without having any form of strategy or governance or security or any form of visibility to what the employees are doing with the tool itself, right? So when we explain how GDP works, the first thing we said was this is what an LLM does, right? It's the first place that when you type in a question or type in a comment with ChatGPT, it goes back into the LLM and looks for the answer to be presented to them. If it doesn't exist there, with latest versions of ChatGPT, it uses what's called a browsing feature where it goes out and retrieves the information and then comes back and provides the answer synthesized, within the environment as well. So when we explain that to the community that was at our lunch and learn, that back before browser feature was available, if it did not exist within the LLM, many times it come back saying, I don't have the answer for you. Or in some cases, sadly, it would use AI hallucination, which we'll cover in a moment. Now, Google Gemini, as most of you know, does not run LLM. What it does is it actually basically decouples your entire prompt, and we'll get into prompt in a moment, and takes that and looks at all the various different Google assets that are learned throughout the entire Google enterprise environment and goes in and figures out kind of the answer, takes information, synthesizes it, and then produces it back within the screen. This is really done in real time. So two completely different ways of doing it. Now, go back to that disruptor slide for a moment. When you think about Netflix or Prime or Apple TV, all three of them stream content. They stream movies, they stream television shows. So they all kind of do the same thing, but they do it using different content. It's exactly the same way as we're looking at Gemini versus looking at ChatGPT and DeepSeek, is they all source their original data from different sources. So while they're all technically doing the same thing, they kind of also, more importantly, have a lot of differences as well. Now, why is this a growing concern? Why is AI a concern to every organization? If you look at the recent MIT study that said 95% of generative projects are failing to deliver a measurable return on investment, right? Now, that could be very telling because it means that you went in and said, we're going to use AI to reduce headcount. We're going to use AI to change our back office. We're going to use AI to change our marketing or product development or software engineering. And most of those projects, even though that functionally they're working, they're not delivering what people would expect. And then sort of part of the study was it came out and gave up, some reasons why. Number one, learning gap. Do employees know how to use the tool correctly? Are the employees using the tool the way the tool is designed in order to get the maximum benefit? The second one, which is really interesting, is misaligned use cases. We're going to use it for marketing. How? Well, create a video or create an image. Yes. Create a marketing strategy. Yes. Go out and look at prospects. Yes. But what about some other things relating to, let's say, software engineering and doing QA, right? And you don't define clearly what QA you're using or what framework of QA you're using, and it produces some really mixed, crazy results. Another one is also per workflow integration. Now you plug AI into something either as a bolt-on or in a full integration, and it doesn't deliver what you expect it to deliver. It suddenly makes it more difficult for you to process data where it's supposed to have been a way of optimizing it, which feeds into unrealistic expectations. When people roll out AI and they say, okay, people, this is what we're going to do and how we're going to do it, and ChatGPT is going to be our tool of choice. And then you realize that suddenly your organization's all over the place because you look at the results coming out of it going, wait a minute, that doesn't look right, which feeds into the biggest problem, which is verification tax. Now, verification tax, if you're not familiar with this term, is the cost it takes for you to validate the information that came out of AI to begin with. Now, one of the things I brought up as an example during the Lunch and Learn was when people hired me in the past to write blogs as an example, some of them would say, here's the prompt, go write it. And I go write blog and produce it, do whatever. And then I have some people that would hand me a document that they created themselves in ChatGPT and said, can you just kind of brush it up a little bit, kind of clean it up. Don't make it look so AI. The reality, though, is that ended up costing them more money for me to do that than it was to write the content to begin with from the scratch. Because I had to go through and undo what was in the article that was produced that was not accurate. So the verification tax, which is something that most people are not accounted for in their AI strategy, is how much time and effort and cost is it going to take us to validate what we're getting out of AI. So think about people that are using this right now for like financial analysis or QA or software development. And they're thinking, hey, we're getting products built in half the time, but did you lose that gain by having to go through and do a verification process, right? And I think that's another area that AI, where people are misjudging going, the more we're having it do, the more we're going to have to verify, right? So other thing also more importantly, when you really get down to really, if you don't understand prompts or have any form of clear direction of what strategy, how prompt work, you're not going to get the most out of an AI tool, right? Now think about prompts, as most of you know that have played with it. It's really more about instructions, right? And it can be something that's extremely complex you can have multiple lines or multiple questions that come up during a particular prompt, or you can have something very simple. And I'm going to show you some workable results. Now, one of our deliverables we wanted at the event this week was we wanted people to walk away with the ability to go back to their business and try these prompts so they can say they can do things today and not to be fearful of what AI does. There are some good things that come from it. So we gave them some good examples. So here was one that we came up with. New client prospecting, business. Now, this prompt may look a little long, but it really isn't. If you think about what's inside of this prompt, location, company size, industries, compliance needs, find me 15 companies in Tucson that fit this profile, exclude IT firms, MSPs, and competitors, verify at least 2 sources, we'll touch on that in a second, priority firms by ownership, output to a clean table, and export it into a CVSE file. Now, the part that's the most important out of this prompt is, more importantly, verify at least 2 sources possible. Why is that critical? Because AI hallucination, for you're not familiar what it is basically, to put it bluntly, AI made stuff up, right? It didn't have an answer, so it hallucinated and came up with an answer. Now, why this is very interesting is that there have been lawyers that have taken their briefs into a courtroom that had case precedents buried within their briefings that judges have read saying, I don't remember this case. Where did you get this from? The reality is that ChatGPT or another AI modeling tool spit out a case that's never really existed to begin with. Yuck. So this is why it's imperative that every single prompt that you put together that has anything to do with the data output or source output, that you want to be able to say, please provide me 2 valid sources. Now, obviously, as part of the verification tax, when you see these output source links, you should click on the outsource links and actually check it, right? And by doing that, you're knowing that the answers you got back, the feedback you got back came from a viable source. Now, this particular prompt did produce a nice output in Excel, which is, of course, CVS and CSV. But what you're not seeing here is there's also a column that said unverified, meaning I'm going to tell you Tucson Medical Center, I'm going to show you, some law firms and such. But the part you don't see in this was there's another column that said unverified and verified. So it means that goes back to that verification tax energy that you now have to apply to say, thank you for the output, but I still have to go back and verify. Now think of this as this would have been a 300-person list. You say in the prompt, I did not stipulate how many companies I wanted to find in the Tucson area, and something I have a 10,000-line Excel spreadsheet, right? Or something, gassy like that. I'd have to go through and actually do a verification validation process. So having the ability, most importantly of all, to go in and really stipulate within your prompt, I just want 12, I just want 25, is a better way of you managing how much verification process you have to put into it. Prompt number 2, this was prospecting business to consumer, right? Men 25 to 45, they're interested in car auctions. They go to Barrett-Jackson. They're very familiar with Manheim auctions. They love car building. They do customizations. They do restorations. They're in the Phoenix area. Find me 5 events in the Phoenix area that fit this profile. Please include names, dates, and specific audience sizes. Please include things like platforms. How can I best get hold of them? Who are the influencers? In this case, what I'm looking for is not a list. I'm just looking for ability to, what events should I be participating in order to go after the ideal customers I'm looking for. Fabulous. This is another great positive example of using open source AI, because this information is valuable to me. I can see like luxury cars and coffee, right? Wow, Peoria Cars and Coffee on September 14th. There's a link. I click on it. I can sign up. I can register. So this is, again, this output was done in seconds. So the prompt wasn't very complicated. It was probably 11 lines, and it produced something that I can walk away with. This is one of the most important things we hope that our customers and prospects got from our lunch and learn this week, was you can go home today, take some of these prompts and put them to use. Now, this is one that's probably the simplest one. That's probably the most common one that people use is, please create an image to align with the following narrative. How will cybersecurity impact the automotive industry in 2026? Create an image with a 300 DPI and 21 over 80 by 1200 resolution. Do not include any words within the image. And the image came out beautiful. Now, the really nice thing about prompting is that if you don't like that, you can always go back and redo your prompt. Now, if you were hiring a graphic artist back in the day and said, I need you to create this logo image or whatever, they would charge you for it, and they'd probably take a couple of days. And if you had any changes or any modifications, there's another couple of days. This was all done in 30 seconds, right? So this is another value that, with open source AI, you can do these things. These are ways that you can improve productivity in certain parts of the business, right? Because you're creating an image, or you're looking for prospects, or you're doing these types of things that are really what would have been a manual process that you now have found a way to kind of use AI to automate it a little bit better way. Now, the last use case we gave was data analysis. Please use the enclosed Excel spreadsheet for this analysis. Please compare our customer names and last year's sales numbers and compare them, nice, to column D. Please output these to a downloadable Excel spreadsheet. Now, red flag. Why is this a red flag? Because your employee just uploaded the customer list and sales numbers into an open source LLM model. The output in the Excel file is also public accessible. So this is where we start getting into, did we have governance, security, and visibility into our AI tools being used in our enterprise to help prevent this type of action from happening? This is the wake-up call that SMBs, mid-markets, large enterprise, regulated businesses have said, well, we need to take AI more seriously. It's been a play toy for a year. We're now trying to embed it into our business processes. We're now altering our business models. And we need to do so in a way in which that we can do it in a more secure manner, because we cannot have this happen, right? So the invisible threat is, in fact, the employees that are feeding sensitive data, provider codes, customer lists, strategic plans into ChatGPT, into Gemini, into DeepSeek and others, that information now becomes part of their learning model, right? And now you're saying, well, okay, well, but I still need the value of AI. I still need to make AI, just like I said, the SMBs, they need AI. It's part of the process of them revolutionizing how they deliver their services, reducing their costs, but they've got to do it in a secure way, right? So this is where visibility comes in. So this is actually Cisco Umbrella that we run today, and clients, that we have on our managed IT side have come back and said, can you please tell me what AI applications or AI processes and things are being used within my environment? So this produces an excellent output to show them. Here's how many copilots, this is ChatGPT, here's Canva. So, and this is how many users are accessing this across your environment. This gives them the option to say, yeah, that's fine, that's approved, or it gives you the ability to block it. Now, what's really interesting about this is now with the customer having the ability to say, no ChatGPT, no Gemini, but Copilot, is because Copilot provides far more security for them to ensure that their questions and their prompts and their data are not ending up in a public model. That is extremely helpful, particularly for healthcare, financials, government, and so on, that really embrace AI, but at the same time, they want to do it in a much more, secure fashion as well. Now, why it's important to get the whole governance, AI, security, visibility figured out is because AI is rapidly changing, as you know. Before generative AI, when we were simply doing images and we're doing questions and we're asking it to be conversationalist and doing things like chatbots and things, fabulous, it works. Now you went into the bolt-on, where now you have people that have bolted on AI to their existing products, like Copilot bolts on, what it did, within 365. And now you have the next generation, which is what's currently going on right now, is software companies and technology companies are embedding AI on day one as they develop their new products and services. It's not a bolt anymore. It's now fully integrated on day one. That transformation is happening as well. So that's where it's very imperative to understanding that, okay, if we're going to go with this platform that already has AI fully embedded into it, do we fully understand how the AI is being used? Do we have to disclose to our customers and our prospects and to our business partners some of our decisions are being made using AI? Of course, that's part of AI governance, right? But understandably, getting the direction today figured out with governance, security, and visibility goes back into staying in with, understanding where this transformation of AI is heading as well. Now, we presented this week with our partners from OpenText, and they were in-house doing this, and they did a fabulous job. And what they did is they kind of laid out for customers understanding who OpenText is. I mean, I've known them for years on different product levels, but they bring a tremendous portfolio. And a lot of reason that we partner with them is because of the Microsoft solution. So Office 365 and Copilot, we lean a lot on OpenText to acquire some of those licenses. Now, they really can speak firsthand on how AI is impacting them as a software company. When they either go out and acquire technologies or they're building products in-house, AI is everywhere, right? There's not a single solution set that's not within the OpenText portfolio that does not have some form of an AI to it. A great example is AI archiving. So when you do archiving for e-discovery as an example, there is AI everywhere on this platform. Why? Because you have to be able to do searches, and you have to do legal holds, and you have to be able to produce the original content. But you also have to, more importantly, build on retention policies that are predictive. Instead of going, we're going to keep everything for 60 days, you have to be a little more going, well, do we really need to keep this information 60 days? Because nobody's even touched it, right? Back in the day when we were doing this 15 years ago, we would set static policies. Now you can have dynamic policies thanks to AI within archiving as well. Now, why is this such an important part of why OpenText and us partner together is because every single customer we have and our prospects that we're talking to ask the question, how are you guys addressing AI, whether from a security, compliance, visibility, serviceability, deliverability perspective? We're not having a conversation today without having AI somewhere in the fold, right? So a lot of it points back to is where's Microsoft Copilot going? And where Copilot really delivers is on the security side, the visibility side, and most importantly of all, protecting data. So when you think about someone that goes into ChatGPT and they type in a prompt, everybody can see the prompt, unless you have the ability to block it or ability to filter it out, right? But for most cases, if you're doing that in Copilot, Copilot has a series of protectional rules that you can use in order to ensure that you're not only protecting your data, but you're best leveraging. Now, remember the original failure of the MIT report that it came out that 95% of generative AI projects fail or deliver no value is because most people don't know how to use the tools. What Copilot delivers for customers is the ability to have an integration within 365 to make sure that not only can you best leverage AI, but you're doing it in a much more secure manner and doing more importantly in a more operational efficient manner as well. So this way, if people are in Excel or PowerPoint or Word or whatever they're in, and they're leveraging AI, they're at least doing it not only in a secure manner, but they're doing it in a way in which they're leveraging it in the best way in order to improve their overall operational ability as well. Now, the thing about Copilot, if you haven't played with it yet, there's a lot of chatting capabilities in it. There's integration of the apps, and of course, there's the studio capability as well. These all wrap into delivering security, privacy, governance, and visibility. Right. So this is where when you're a healthcare provider and you have AI in healthcare, but you want to have the ability to limit to make sure that people aren't typing in, patients' information or PII information into an AI tool. Copilot has the ability to block that. They have the ability to say, okay, you shouldn't be asking these questions. It also has the ability to use private LLM. So that way, anything that's learned by the organization stays within the organization's model. It doesn't share it with the public open AI side, which, by the way, is massively huge, particularly in financial, as well. All right. So ultimately, when you look at Copilot for 365 compared to open source, your data is being protected. You're not training other people's AI model based on your data, right? Your data model is protected every step of the way. And most of all, this is how you do protect your customer information and copyright and intellectual property. Without having a Copilot security framework talking to OpenAI and trying to use ChatGPT, which does have some guardrails, and Gemini as well, you're still exposing yourself to potential legal, obviously legal issues and compliance issues as well, right? So ultimately, how we use it. So this is a question that got brought up was how does Coeus use it, right? And how we do it internally. So we take the data in Copilot, we upload data to Copilot because it's done in a secure manner into our LLM that we use within Copilot to do an analysis of how long it takes us to open, close, and respond to tickets. And this is very important because we're obviously in the managed IT service delivery, and we want to make sure that we're not only processing tickets, but we're closing tickets, and we're doing so in a timeline or time frame that we expect. This is the power of AI that we use to make sure that if we're going to get all these tickets, are we opening them, are we closing them, is our automation working, more importantly, is our automation working? Yes. And do we improve our times to go from open to close to resolution, right? And so we pump this into Copilot. Why? Because this is secure information. We do not want it in OpenAI. We don't want it in a public LM. We want to keep this information secure, but we want to be able to utilize AI to help us for quick analysis and information as well. So, question that got brought up that we brought up towards the end of the presentation was, can you successfully implement an AI strategy without security, governance, and visibility? The answer is no, to be frank, right? Unless you have the tools necessary to protect your data, protect your prompts, make sure nothing goes in the public models, you're going to struggle with trying to figure out, is AI really working for us? And that really comes down to where we come into this as well. Now, what's fascinating is that many managed IT providers are not talking about AI governance security with many of the customers. Why? Because it's totally, completely different skill set, right? This is strategic thinking. This is not reactionary to incident responses. This really requires a whole new skill set. A lot of the legacy tools that managed providers use today do not have that visibility into knowing, do you realize how much AI you have running in your environment today, right? The threat landscape changes every single day. Now, how many AI email phishing attacks are happening that are powered by AI? Tons, right? Do you have the tools necessary? Do you have the tools to respond to it? Can you improve your response times like we have by using AI tools, right? And most important of all, most legacy MSSPs are still focused on yesterday's problems. Not only are we interested in yesterday's problems, but we're interested in today and tomorrow problems as well, and that's how we build our practice around it, right? So we really focus on, when we're working with our customers that have developed AI, saying AI is critical to our business, we focus on the three major pillars: security, governance, and visibility. That's the genesis of our managed providing solution to our customers that we're providing today, right? Outcome, we're trying to help our customers turn the AI risk into AI advantage. We help them create a policy. We make sure that they have the right security controls in place to detect the AI swim lanes. And most importantly of all, we provide the means to manage and monitor these things that happen, even though our customers may not have enough headcount to be able to do that as well. So at the end of the day, what we're doing is for customers that have the need of wanting to have, an AI strategy, they come to us, and we obviously spend a great deal of time working with them to making sure that, yes, if you're going to use these tools, let's make sure we have visibility turned on. If you're going to utilize, secure document analysis or financial analysis, let's make sure you're doing it in a private LLM. These are conversations that many customers were not even having a year ago. And now they're coming to us and saying, we need to have this. So if you're really looking at really bringing AI into your environment today and making it a mainstay of your process or your DNA, let's have that conversation. Reach out to us at cos.us. We'd love to have a conversation with you on, what are your goals, what's your strategy, and most importantly, what are your concerns about the security with AI, and how best way to protect your data as well. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's podcast today. How do you get the most out of AI? I am your host, John Gormley. I'm the marketing consultant here at Coeus Consulting here in Phoenix. I appreciate you being on as well. We'll be on again next week for another podcast as well. And have yourself a safe and wonderful weekend as well. Take care.